feeling it. Maybe you could start off by just introducing yourself and what you do.
Sure. My name is David Eby, and I'm the Executive Director of the BC Civil Liberties Association.
And some people may be familiar with you through the film Five Ring Circus. Could you talk about some of the activities of yours that drew the attention of the filmmakers there?
Sure. At the time, I was working with a group called Pivot Legal Society and doing a lot of work on homelessness and rights of the homeless, and the need for a right to shelter and a right to housing. And I was providing legal support to a demonstration that was at Vancouver City Hall, and also doing a lot of work tying in commitments that have been made around the Olympics to leave a legacy of affordable housing, and that poor people wouldn't be displaced, to what was actually happening on the ground in the downtown east side, which is one of Canada's poorest neighborhoods.
And what is the state of the homeless in Vancouver at the moment?
Well, there were some positive things that have happened since the film and the actions that were taken by the community groups around homelessness, and there have been some negative things. So some positive things: the province was forced to purchase. The film focused a lot on single residence SROs, or single resident occupancy buildings, which are lodging houses, residential hotels, and the province ended up buying 25 of those buildings as a result of the pressure that was put on them because of the very poor conditions in the buildings and the fact that they were closing and converting and people were being evicted to the streets. So that was a good thing that came out of the actions. As far as bad things, the province also passed a law that called the Assistance to Shelter Act in just the month before the Olympics, that allows police officers to use force to remove homeless people from the street and force them to go to homeless shelters. And the homeless shelter can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be nearby. And not only that, the homeless person doesn't have an opportunity to refuse. It can be any time of the day or night. And we're very concerned that that will be used to relocate homeless people out of tourist areas into more remote areas where the shelters are.
And do you find that your activities in relation to the Olympics have created other forms of coalitions of support, other activist assemblies?
Yeah, there have been some interesting responses in Vancouver to the Olympics, and one of them is our organization, the one I work for now, the BC Civil Liberties Association, has pulled together people concerned about the impact of the Olympics on things like free speech, free assembly, and the repressive atmosphere that's come out of Vancouver around speaking out against the Olympic Games. And we've built a team of legal observers. We've trained 300 people now, and we have video cameras and a scheduling system, a very sophisticated system, so that we can monitor the activities of security forces around the Olympic Games. It's going to be a very important program come the Olympics because there are similarly a broad coalition of activists that have come together around the Olympics under the banner of No Olympics on Stolen Native Land, and they are going to be doing protests throughout the Olympic period, and they've been subject to some very repressive security force tactics, and we think it'll be very important to be watching the protests on the ground and making sure that people's rights are respected.
And do you anticipate any follow-up activities once the Olympics are over? Do you have a plan for the afterward?
Yeah, well, all of the documentation collected by our legal observers, which will be videotapes and notes of incidents, will be available to activists as they need for legal defense. In addition, if there's any public inquiry afterwards, as there was after the APEC protests, then they will be available for the inquiry as well, to look into the tactics of the security teams around the Olympics. Hopefully neither of those things happen, in which case the only outcome will be a report for future Olympic cities, sharing our learnings about what worked well and what didn't work well in terms of ensuring free speech rights are respected around mega events like the Olympics.
Okay, do you have any websites or organizations you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I think if people are interested, they should visit the BC Civil Liberties website at www.bccla.org, and Pivot Legal Society is doing some wonderful work as well. They're at pivotlegal.org.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.